Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today to attend the webinar Studying Environmental Sciences at U.S. Universities and Colleges. My name is Sasada, EducationUSA Advisor in Tokyo. I'll be the MC for today. どうぞよろしくお願いします。Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about EducationUSA. Quickly, EducationUSA is a U.S. Department State network of advising centers in more than 170 countries worldwide. We promote U.S. higher education to international students by providing accurate, comprehensive, and current information and advice about studying at U.S. colleges and universities. In Japan, we have 6 EducationUSA centers: Sapporo, Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, Fukuoka, and Okinawa, run by the U.S. Embassy, Consulate, and Fulbright Japan. If you have any questions, please get in touch with the EducationUSA advising centers nearby. This program is hosted by EducationUSA Tokyo. Before we go on, now I'd like to talk a little bit about our future events coming soon. On June 7th, we will have a webinar on アメリカ大使館領事部に聞く学生ビザ申請について。This is a really great and precious opportunity to actually receive the most up-to-date information on visa application from the consular section of the U.S. Embassy. So please join. In addition, June 24th, we will have a pre-departure orientation program. We invite one current undergraduate and graduate students studying at U.S. universities. So please join us again. Okay, now I'd like to introduce our 2 excellent speakers from the United States, Ms. Lori Lombardo of Yale School of Environment and Mr. Nathan Shelfer of Nelson Institute of Environmental Studies of University of Wisconsin-Madison. Thank you so much, Lori and Nathan, for joining us today. Now, I'd like to hand it over to you, Lori and Nathan. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to share with you what it's like and what you can perhaps expect studying environmental studies and sciences in the United States. So my name is Lori Lombardo. I'm the Assistant Director of Events and Recruitment and Admissions at the Yale School of the Environment at Yale University. And I myself have 2 academic degrees in the field of environmental studies as well. I earned my bachelor's from Lafayette College in environmental studies and recently earned my master's in natural resources from Virginia Tech. So I'm really excited to share with you what you can expect, but also to know of your interests in environmental science and studies. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and get started. Okay, so let's jump right in if I can advance my slide. So I thought I'd start just by sharing a bit about New Haven, Connecticut and Yale more broadly, so you can begin to learn about some cities here in the US. So New Haven is located on the coastline in Connecticut. We sit on the Long Island Sound, so we have beautiful coastal areas, but we also have a beautiful city with lots of green space as well. We are the 3rd largest city in the state of Connecticut with a population of about 130,000 people. And we are one of the first planned cities in the United States, meaning that we were built on a grid system. So it's really easy to navigate our city and find your way from different parts of campus to various museums, theaters, shopping, restaurants, and so much more. And we are one of the oldest cities in the US, being founded in 1638. We're known as the Elm City because we are the first city that had a tree planting program in the US. And that's kind of why you can see in the bottom picture, there are so many trees and mature trees all over New Haven. We're located about 2 hours from New York City and Boston, so very centrally located to 2 major metropolitan areas. And we might be home to the best pizza in the United States? I certainly think so, but that is a debate always had across the US. Yale University, as you may have known and researched before, is a private Ivy League university, research university as well. We were founded in 1701, and total on campus, we have about 12,000 students, with about 7,000 of those being graduate students. Yale University is composed of Yale College, which is our undergraduate school, and 14 graduate schools as well. So that's why I'm representing the Yale School of the Environment at Yale University. So what is environmental studies? I think it's a really important field, especially now. It's a multi and interdisciplinary field that relies on a variety of different disciplines, so biology, physical sciences, social sciences, and so much more, to study the interaction of people with the environment and ultimately find solutions after understanding the issues at hand to solving our world's most wicked and challenging environmental and forest-related concerns. So if you are interested in working in the environmental space, you might be wondering, well, what should I study in undergrad? You know, you might be in high school, you might be a current undergraduate student now and are just curious, you know, where you may be able to join in this fight for, you know, preventing further environmental damage. So many undergraduate majors are going to prepare you for a master's or you know, further work if you want to pursue a career after your undergraduate degree is earned. Many different undergraduate majors will allow you to do that. So I've listed just a few here, you know, everything from agriculture to geography and ethics to like forestry, public policy, business even. Economics is another popular major that is very important in the field. And of course, there are majors available that are called environmental science or environmental studies, but you can also, you know, apply different disciplines to the environmental field and be successful, even if you're not coming from an environmental studies or science major specifically. And the reason for that is because, you know, environmental studies itself is so interdisciplinary and it's intersectional, and it would be impossible to solve most environmental challenges with just one discipline of knowledge. So even at the Yale School of the Environment, we really encourage our students to embrace their different backgrounds professionally or academically and build foundational knowledge in a variety of different areas. And that is a requirement. So we require our master's students to be proficient at least at a foundational level in the social sciences, natural sciences, specifically the physical sciences, which would include things like earth science, physics, and chemistry, as well as ecological sciences, so things like ecology and biology, and economics as well would be the fourth area. So a lot of different pathways can take you to the environmental field, is all I'm really trying to say. So once you earn your bachelor's degree, you may be interested in pursuing a master's program. So many programs are out there for you to be on the lookout for at the Yale School of the Environment, which I call YSE for short. We offer 4 two-year master's degrees that are very similar to other universities as well. So I'll speak to these 4, but there are other, you know, master's programs that would help you advance in this field as well. For example, I earned a Master of Natural Resources, not one of these 4, and I'm still in the environmental space. So the most popular master's degree program is the Master of Environmental Management. This is a professionally focused program, so it allows students to apply the knowledge that they're learning in the classroom to real world you know, issues that are ongoing, and allows our students to partner with local organizations and communities. The Master of Forestry is accredited by the Society of American Foresters here at YSE, but the Master of Forestry is geared towards students who, again, are looking for a professional master's program where they're going to be able to apply what they're learning in the classroom to real world problems and engage with communities and support those in our area. But the Master of Forestry has a bit more focus on not necessarily conservation, but on land management. So you can be interested in working in cities and still earn a Master of Forestry if your interests are properly aligned in that space. And then at YSE, we have 2 research degrees. Those are the Master of Environmental Science and the Master of Forest Science. And for us, those are mini PhD programs. They allow students to engage in research that is their own. So you would propose a research topic and work with an advisor for your 2 years. So like I said, as a note, these are just the 4 programs that are offered at YSE. There are other master's, programs out there in the US that would also help you advance a career in the environmental field. But of course, these are the ones best known to me. So I'll highlight those, but they are similar to others that are offered at other universities as well. So another thing that I'd like to highlight about YSE, but also the environmental field, once again, is that it is so interdisciplinary that it may be valuable to you or some of your peers to earn multiple graduate level degrees in order to, craft the best career path possible. So one thing we offer our students is numerous joint degree programs. These allow students to study in 2 disciplines at the graduate level in a shortened amount of time. So for example, if you are interested in earning a master's of business administration, or an MBA for short, and the Master of Environmental Management, or MEM for short, at Yale, you could potentially do that. Instead of it taking you 4 years, it would take you 3, saving you, a year of time, but also a year of tuition. So it opens up additional opportunities for you if you are interested in earning multiple graduate level degrees in the future. So some great resources I'd like to highlight, and I'm sure that Nathan will highlight some incredible ones as well. As you are considering what a career path and what studying environmental studies and science in the United States will be like, these are some resources that may be helpful to you. So first, I always recommend really, looking into the programs that you're interested in. If there's a region of the United States that you're interested in, look at those universities and get an understanding of what opportunities they have to offer you in this space. One way to do that is by researching faculty and staff that work at those schools that have the programs you're interested in. So you can review their journal articles and other publications, books, etc. You can reach out to them directly to learn more about their research and their work. Build your network. You can seek the support of your career offices, perhaps at your undergraduate universities. These people are all willing to help you. For the most part, they want to see as many people as they can in this field so we can really make an impact and make change. You'll also find that universities, specifically, I'm a bit biased representing a university, but universities offer incredible events that you are able to attend. A lot of times these events are free, and now more than ever, they're being offered at least in a hybrid format, if not entirely virtual. So there are many ways for you to connect with, leading environmental professionals just to learn more about different areas of the environmental field. So definitely take advantage of that when you're looking through university websites. You may be able to register for events happening virtually, even if you're not, enrolled at that school. A lot of times they're open to the public. NGOs, local governments, private companies, all of these different organizations similarly will host events focused on sustainability and bring incredible speakers and leaders in the field to speak to the general public. So seek out those opportunities to really hone what areas of the environmental field you are interested in. You'll also find a lot of universities have environmental think tanks and research centers associated with them. So At Yale, we have over 20 different research centers and programs. I've just listed 2 here, but the Yale Center for Climate Change Communication and the Yale Center for Business and the Environment, they do a lot of lectures and events that are open to the public. They publish incredible articles and research that are available to all. So again, helping you kind of hone that interest and get a better understanding of the types of jobs and opportunities available in these different spaces. Of course, excuse me, you also have environmental professional organizations. So if you are interested in a particular area within the environmental field, seek out these professional organizations. They may be able to connect you with environmental professionals who are more senior than you, who have more experience and are willing to mentor you, or at least just network and build some space to share advice about the field. So I've listed, again, just 2 examples here, but there are so many that you can explore: the World Forestry Congress and the International Society for Industrial Ecology. I'll also encourage you to seek out, subscribing to environmental journals and magazines. So one great example is the E360 magazine, which is published by the Yale Center for Climate Change Communication. It's incredible. It's like the New York Times of environmental news. Their articles are fantastic, and it's a great way to stay up to date with what is happening, day to day in the environmental field, what news is breaking, and what is of, importance that day, but, over a long time as well. So again, these are all great resources for you to really learn about the field, build your network, and begin to really narrow down what your specific interest is in the very broad environmental field. So I'm going to take a sip of water, and then I'll hop into some of my application tips for you. So these application tips, I think, are very valuable to you, whether you're in high school or you're in your undergraduate career and are planning to apply to graduate school. I did work in an undergraduate university before I was at the graduate level, so I think there's some truth to what I'm saying too, no matter what application you are submitting. So definitely step outside your comfort zone and network to learn about those areas that are of interest to you. So the better you know what your goals are and specific areas that you're interested in, and it doesn't need to be super specific, like I want this specific job when I graduate, but if you have 2 or 3, areas that you're interested in within the environmental field, that'll be helpful to you. So when I say that, what do I mean? Well, are you interested in water? Are you interested in energy? Are you interested in, corporate sustainability or environmental finance? Having a more specific area of interest than just the broad environmental field, especially when you're applying to graduate school, is going to be important. I always encourage students to really hone their elevator pitch. So when you're submitting a personal statement, either for your undergraduate application or for a master's program or a PhD program, you're not given all of the space in the world to tell your story. Oftentimes there are word limits. So practice telling your story and tell your story with purpose and drive. You want to make sure that the reader understands your commitment to the environment or the school or your further studies, but also can see how you will accomplish your goals at that university. Again, spend time understanding what your professional and academic goals are. Thoroughly research schools and programs that are interesting to you. So, go outside your comfort zone, perhaps, again, by researching schools you may not have heard of before as well. There's a lot of really great programs in the US, from small schools to big schools. And try to tailor your personal statement or your essay to each school if that's relevant. So make it personal for us too. When you're writing or asking folks to write your letters of reference, make sure you ask people who know you well and can write fairly thoroughly about you in a positive way. Also, take the time to meet with admissions counselors, financial aid advisors, and others at the universities that you're interested in so that you can familiarize yourself with all of our application requirements, and processes, because every school does have a different process and has different requirements. So you'll want to make sure that you're not delaying or forgetting any pieces that are of importance that may hinder your application success. But most importantly, be yourself. We're not looking in most cases for a very specific person. We're looking for somebody who is really going to make change in the field. So be yourself. So finally, once you've been admitted to your dream programs, you'll really start considering what your career paths are. So here is a pie chart of YSC's most recent graduating class. So our folks, well, now they're not the most recent because we just had graduation last week, but the class of 2021, these are the different sectors that they ended up in as their first job post graduating from YSC with a master's. So as you can see, the majority of our students are going into the private sector or the nonprofit NGO space. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to reshare my screen and just show you an incredible website that is offered by the Yale School of the Environment, Career and Professional Development Office. And I'll share the link in the chat so that you can explore it on your own as well. So I'll share this here and just give a really long visual here of all of the different types of jobs that are available in the environmental space. So you can go on to be a lawyer, you can be a communications manual, you can go on to be a project developer, an environmental scientist, a deputy conservator of forests, a consultant for the UN. You can work as a field organizer for a political organization. You can work for a variety of different NGOs, and you can be an analyst, you can be a fellow, you can work with so many different types of people and so many important projects. So I'll share this link because it's really helpful to just get to know the opportunities that are available to you as someone who is interested in studying environmental studies. So with that, I will pass it over to you now, Nathan, as I stop sharing my screen.
Okay, well, thank you, Lori. And I enjoyed your presentation quite a bit as well. And I want to start by getting my screen up here. And while I'm doing that, I want to thank the EducationUSA team for hosting us tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with everybody, and I think you're going to find that much of what I have to say here today is going to sound very similar to what Lori introduced us in specific about thoughtful ways to think about what's the right kind of program for you and how you can carve out a space within higher education in the United States to think about a wide range of environmental issues. So my name is Nathan Schulfer. I'm the Director of International and Professional Master's Programs at the Nelson Institute for Environmental Studies. I have an undergraduate degree in anthropology that I got from Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana, many years ago, and a master's degree in conservation biology and sustainable development that I got at the Nelson Institute for Environmental Studies. This here on this front screen is a picture of the building where my office is in, one of the older and more historic buildings on the UW-Madison campus. So like Lori, I thought I would just take a little bit of time to give a snapshot, an overview of the city of Madison. We're located in the Midwest. We're about 2.5 hours north of Chicago. Madison has a population of about 258,000 people. That does not include the university. We have a huge university. So when Lori mentioned about 12,000 people at Yale, we're at more at about 29 or 30,000 students total across our undergraduate and graduate body at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. We are the capital city in Wisconsin. And then just a couple of tidbits that my colleagues helped me put together for presentations like this. One thing we're very proud of in Madison is that we have a really wonderful farmers market in the city. At the bottom of my screen on the left, you can see the Capitol building of Madison. The farmers market extends around the entire periphery of it. Wisconsin's an agricultural state, and the farmers market is a long-standing tradition. In fact, a lot of our new students are showing up to start some of our master's programs next week. And this first Saturday is the time that all of them get together to start meeting one another, and they walk around the farmers market. Madison, very similar to New Haven, is a very active, fit, green city. Lots of great tree cover. It's situated on 2 lakes, one of which is really great for sailing. So lake culture, water culture in general, in the state of Wisconsin, but certainly in Madison, really defines a lot of how we choose to recreate. In the wintertime, we're ice skating and skiing on the lakes, and in the summertime, we're boating and kayaking and canoeing. We are a relatively small city, all things considered, but again, we're close to Milwaukee, we're close to Chicago, which offer a lot more opportunities to engage in urban opportunities for those who are interested. So the University of Wisconsin-Madison was founded in 1848. And one of the things that makes us unique as a public university in the United States is that we're both a land grant university and a research university. And what that means is the land grant universities were designed to focus in on research and issues like agriculture and life science communication. Lots of research and application of research that had impact on people's lives. And then oftentimes other states will have a research university as well, where they focus on a much larger, wider portfolio of research focused opportunities. But UW-Madison is unique in that we're both of those, both the land grant and the research university. And what that means is you get a really interesting mixture of both the science and then again, researchers and people who are immediately applying that science to problem solving, whether that's in the environmental space or any other wide range of topics. UW-Madison is a large university, as mentioned at the beginning, and right now we're number 8 in total research expenditures. And we have a good reputation as a public university here in the United States. One thing that's really interesting, in particular in the environmental space, is this idea that we call the Wisconsin idea. This has been in place as long as we've been in university, and the vision here, what the Wisconsin idea is all about, is that the boundaries of the university must extend to the boundaries of the state. And then, of course, the world. And what that means is that the research and the practice and the teaching that we produce at University of Wisconsin-Madison is only as effective as it can be if it's extending out to people and communities and having a positive impact on their lives. So this is an idea that we take really quite seriously on campus, and it guides a lot of our community focused work that we do either right here in Madison or around the world. So the Nelson Institute in specific, where I work, was established in 1970. So we just recently celebrated our 50th anniversary as an institute. And for many years, we were just a graduate level research institute. But within the last decade, we brought on an undergraduate major and created more opportunities for students. I'm going to speak about that here in a little bit. But the name and inspiration for the Nelson Institute comes from the late Gaylord Nelson. He was a Wisconsin native. He was our US Senator. He was also our governor. And perhaps one of the things that he's most famous for is that he's one of the original founders of Earth Day, which he viewed as a teaching moment, a sit-in moment. So we're very proud to have the Nelson name attached to us. And I think that the late Senator and Governor's vision really does drive still to this day, again, the community focus that we have as an institute. The mission of our institute is to build partnerships to synergize and sustain excellence in the interdisciplinary research, teaching, and service that make the University of Wisconsin-Madison a world leader in addressing environmental challenges. I want to stop here for a second and just think back to what Lori was saying, because one of the really true things about studying and working in the environment is that to solve problems, whether it be climate change or issues of urban growth and how that's being managed, you really do need to focus and think about environmental problems from an interdisciplinary perspective. You need economists at the table, you need historians, you need scientists, both social and hard, to really think about how you understand the complexity of these issues and how you design and then implement practical, workable solutions on the ground. So just like the Yale School of the Environment, and I think what you'll find, and something Lori was mentioning as well that's really important, is the US is full of all sorts of really good and strong and innovative undergraduate and graduate level environmental programs that I think you'll find more and more schools really recognizing and honing in on that interdisciplinary approach, because after many years, of seeing what's worked and what has not worked in conservation, there's a clear acknowledgement that you need more people with different ideas at the table to solve the problems that we care so deeply about. On our campus, the Nelson Institute is relatively small in comparison to many of the other colleges and schools. We have 16 faculty, but one thing that makes the Nelson Institute unique, and one of the things that helps us be interdisciplinary in the way that we want to be and that we need to be, is that we have faculty affiliates that come from all across campus to participate in Nelson programming and to work with Nelson students. So from engineering to business to music and theater, it's a really interesting and diverse set of people that contribute to the community that is the Nelson Institute. And we have lots of fellows and scholars in programs that we do. And we're really also, something I'll mention, which is interesting, is that we are really also a staff-driven institute. And that's because we have this community piece, where the work that we do, we really want to connect it and tie it into communities. And so faculty are very busy and they're running research agendas. And so we have a strong staff. And it's that interesting interplay between our staff and our faculty, and then of course our students, that help us achieve many of those goals and create lots of those opportunities for students to benefit from that kind of creative, what we might call place-based learning. So learning in the classroom, but also learning out in the community. Okay, I got to advance my slide. There we go. So one of the questions that we were asked is, what is environmental studies in science? And excuse me, the first thing that comes to mind is that it really can mean many different things to different people, depending upon your interests and the things you want to focus on, the things that are important where you live. And so this little word matrix here just shows a wide range of things that someone could think about, potentially focus their studies on, even potentially work within sectors that do this kind of programming or research or practice, whatever it might be. But it involves people, it involves science, it involves policy and decision making, it involves effective management, building strong teams. You could be thinking about ecosystem services, something like pollinators, to wetlands and how those wetlands control flooding, to food, and the importance of food and how we think about agriculture as a sustainable activity on the landscape that's both contributing to global development needs, but also being done in a way that's thoughtful and conscientious about environmental outcomes. Education, of course, is key, How do you introduce people into the ways in which you can either conserve the land around you, or how do you educate people about how they make decisions that might be beneficial to them in their families? Urbanization, cities, the work that's happening in cities is increasingly important. So main point being, environmental studies and environmental science touches on all sorts of different aspects of our life, and hence when one thinks about how to situate what might be a focus of study or the work that you do, or you think about the kinds of jobs you might want in the long term, right? There's a lot of different creative avenues and paths that you can take. So the Nelson Institute in specific, I'll run through this list. We have one undergraduate major now in environmental studies. And one thing that's really interesting and I think powerful about that undergraduate studies major is you have to do it as a double major. So you're not just getting an environmental studies degree, you're getting environmental studies in business or environmental studies in engineering. Environmental studies in economics is another example. And so what that does is it really opens up a lot of avenues to think creatively about how you're situating your learning. And, you know, I kind of joke around a bit, to be honest with you. When I got my undergraduate degree, you know, basically you just got one degree and it kept you very busy. And now, right, I work with so many students who have multiple degrees and multiple certificates. And in part, it's because the structures and the frameworks of campuses have shifted in ways that make that a little bit easier. So the undergraduate degree, it's a double major, and that's what really helps create that interdisciplinarity. We are getting ready to launch an option for the undergraduate degree in sustainability as well. Sustainability is a complicated word. It can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people, but in this sense, right, we're thinking sort of a holistic way about sustainability. That could be energy, that could be building efficiency, that could be thinking about thoughtful urban design. We have 2 undergraduate certificates, one in environmental studies and one in sustainability, 4 master's degrees, which, similar to what Lori described at Yale, are a combination of what we would call applied or professional degrees, where students are doing a project with an NGO or a government agency or a private sector partner, and then 2 degrees that are research focused. The environmental conservation and the environmental observation and informatics programs, those are our applied degrees. Those are the programs that I work most closely on. But then water resource management and environment and resources are research focused. You're working with the faculty, you've got a committee, you're producing research for publication. So a much more traditional route that most people who would be interested in pursuing a PhD would likely enroll in. We have one PhD program at the Nelson Institute. It's also called Environment and Resources. Really designed to sort of challenge a lot of traditional assumptions about research and to expose students who are working in these spaces to new ways of thinking about community and engagement. And, you know, there's people studying within that PhD program who are thinking about ecological restoration and others who are thinking about environmental historical literature, right? So it's across the board, it's a wide spectrum. We have 2 graduate certificates, one in culture, history, and environment, one in energy analysis and policy. And then, as Lori was saying about Yale, and I will say that the climate change communications work that's happening at the Yale School for Environment is quite remarkable. So I hope you all take advantage of those links and resources that Lori shared about those. We have a Center for Climatic Research, a Center for Culture, History, and Environment, Center for Sustainability in the Global Environment, thinking a lot about issues of global change, deforestation, land use change, et cetera. And then a Center for Ecology and the Environment. And these are centers that, again, just like the Institute, bring together faculty from across the university to think about really cutting edge, forward thinking, relevant to the moment that we live in research. And all of these centers, right, create the kinds of learning opportunities that are important for students to take advantage of during their time on campus. There's so many ways to learn, and it's that learning, right, that really helps you think about what's the right path or route for you to take. So this slide here, let me just check my time. Okay, perfect. I'm looking good. I really like the resources that Lori shared, and this is sort of another way of thinking about how you might learn what's happening in the environmental space. So as an example, the students that I work with who are in these professional master's degrees are really thinking about, you know, what are these, you know, challenges of the moment that we live in? What are some of the ways in which we can solve them? You know, they come into our programs and they recognize, like so many of us, we have lots of interests, wide-ranging interests. We care about lots of things in the world because there's so many things to care about. So it can be hard sometimes to narrow in or focus on certain issues. I've always encouraged our students to do a few things, right? Take advantage of all of the opportunities for learning like you can, whether that's lectures, this whole new online universe where there's all sorts of opportunities to learn about environmental issues, but also take advantage of looking at sites like MangaBay. MangaBay is a wonderful sort of journalistic approach, nonprofit that looks at a wide range of really important, pressing, current issues about environmental conservation the world over. That could be deforestation, it could be palm oil, it could be endangered species protection or the wildlife trade. There's also great resources like WildHub that offer short trainings and courses that you can get involved in that might help spark some new interests or help you better clarify the goals that you have for graduate school or professional work. And then I just list a number of other sites here that we're going to introduce you to, right? All of the different things that are happening in the world of conservation. So even taking a few minutes to look at the website of a group like World Wildlife Fund or the Nature Conservancy, you can learn a lot because the work that they're doing, right, is work that's really important and relevant in the moment for solving environmental problems here in the US, the world over. So it just gives you an insight, a snapshot, so to say, of resources that can help you start to understand what these issues are and then think about how you might be able to fit within them. I agreed with all of the points that Lori made about applications, and I thought that she made some great points that I don't mention here. But the first one really is find the right degree program for you. Find the one that gives you the best chance to meet the, as many of the goals that you have as possible. In particular at the master's level, right? These programs go by quick. You're investing yourself into these programs in a way that's a little bit different than you might at an undergraduate level because the time is so short. So you want to be in the right program. Take advantage and take on as many academic and professional opportunities as you can because it will strengthen your resume, but don't do it in such a way that burns yourself out. Make sure you are saving time for hobbies and social activities. As much as we and Yale and every university in the US wants to see people's motivation to be a problem solver, it's also really beneficial to see how people balance that out in their life and the other things that they choose to do. That's part of the authentic self. Do take time to talk to admissions counselors and families and friends and connect with people who work on these environmental issues that you care about. As an example, one of the first assignments we do in the cohorts that we're starting here soon is to start working on professional outreach emails, right? How do you introduce people, yourself to people, I should say, in ways that help you maybe get an interview with them to learn about their experience and how they've gotten to where they want to go. And then finally, always work on your writing. Writing is really important in our sector, both within higher education, but then also the conservation sector. And I really want to stress the point that Lori made. Do use personal professional references that know you well and like your work and will speak positively about you and how you can succeed and how you can contribute to a program. So finally, there is a wide range of career paths. I liked the slide that Lori had. I think we were probably approximately similar at the Nelson Institute, maybe a little bit less on the private sector side, but quite a bit of nonprofit and government work, a lot of education work, people coming out of master's degrees going into PhDs. But there are a wide range of paths to consider, from NGOs and nonprofits to government and academic work. There's more opportunities opening up specifically in the private sector and within consulting. And then within conservation, there's also a wide range of work that's needed. It's not just science anymore, it's communications. It's effectively working with people, building stakeholder support, influencing policy, really a lot of grassroots on the ground work to try to create change. So there's a lot of different ways that you can approach a career in the environmental sector. And if you're broadening out your skills by taking advantage of programs that offer interdisciplinary training, getting a range of experiences, then you yourself are also starting to understand all of the different kinds of skills, the range of skills that you can bring to these jobs. So lots of opportunities, and it can look very different in different spaces. So that's it for me. Thanks for taking the time. It looks like we're at 10:45 now, which I think is when we should stop and go to the Q&A. So I'll quit sharing my screen. I'll put my email in the chat as well, and I look forward to answering some questions.
Well, thank you so much, Lori and Nathan, for your great presentations. We learned so much about the overview and also great case studies of University of Wisconsin-Madison and Yale. So now time for the Q&A session. So we already have great questions, and don't be surprised because we received so many great questions from the participants already. We put some of them on the Q&A box. So Nathan and Lori, would you please, take care of that? Thank you.
So Nathan, maybe I'll read the question and then one of us can answer. Does that work?
That sounds great. That sounds great.
Sure. Cool. So our first question, which may have been asked before we presented, was, are there any prerequisite subjects to enter environmental science? So briefly, and then Nathan, please feel free to add on. If you're interested in environmental science, as a high school student or as an undergraduate student, I would say there generally are no, prerequisite subjects quite yet. And then when you're looking to go into the graduate level or even pursue a PhD, there may be some prerequisites, but I think like Nathan and I have both shared, those prerequisites can be quite broad depending on which program, but some may have more specific requirements, and that requirement could just be that you've had research experience before, and things like that. So I'll pass it to you, Nathan, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There might be some distinctions between at the master's level, as an example of professional masters, as we were talking about, versus research. Maybe a faculty member wants to see some specific background. The more hard science ones, you may want to see a statistics background or certain things. So yeah, you'll figure that out as you start looking at these different programs. But I think what we try to do as much as possible is look for people who have a unique and cool and interesting set of course backgrounds versus some standard set of courses that we think people should have.
Yeah, we also don't have any specific requirements at the graduate level. We're looking to build a unique class that will be poised to solve these challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is asking about scholarship. Would it be possible to gain scholarship after applying to graduate school? If it's possible, how can we apply for the scholarship? At Yale and at other schools, I'd imagine as well, if you apply for financial aid, you may be automatically considered for need-based scholarships, depending on what your financial status is. And we do offer some merit scholarships where you're automatically considered for those during the application process. And then there are many, many, many scholarships available that you can apply to after. And at YSE, we actually have a database of all of these other scholarships that you can apply for that are outside of, our university.
Yeah, we're very similar. If you're thinking about a PhD program or you're doing research, even at the master's level, it's possible that you could get some funding through a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship. But we have scholarships also, and some of them they have specific applications for that you need to submit and be on deadline and answer certain kinds of questions. Some of them, if you're just part of the group of people that have been admitted, you would be, in the consideration for getting some of them. Again, one of the things that you'll find as you're looking across all the different schools in the United States is everyone's just a little bit different. We do things slightly different. And so trying to coordinate and organize that really just means reading the websites closely and understanding what in specific that university is looking for.
Okay, our next question is asking, what are examples of activities related to environmental studies that junior high students can do during their summer vacation to develop an awareness of environmental issues and eventually get admitted into an environmental program at a US college? I'll let you start.
Okay. It's a great question. You know, when you're at the high school level or below, it's probably trying to get involved in various clubs that might exist at your school so you can get out and do some things as simple as maybe some litter pickup or some kind of project in a park. I think a lot of the opportunities at that point in one's life, it's just as important to be meeting people who are doing interesting things, who help shape your ideas and help answer questions you have. Again, I'd step back to viewing some of this as also just sort of a fun activity, not putting too much pressure on yourself to, you know, have everything put in place. But yeah, that would be my best guess, is get involved through your school, or maybe it's part of a church you're in, or whatever it might be, finding opportunities that are easy for you to access, where you've got good learning opportunities.
Yeah. I'll second what Nathan has shared. Something that came to mind to me is volunteering for like a land trust, you know, something, an organization that is already committed to environmental work that may be in your community. It could even be volunteering for, you know, a food bank to learn how they, you know, run their programming, and someone there may be a food waste expert, and that may open up so many doors for you. So I'll echo what Nathan is saying. You know, do things that you enjoy and try to approach them with an environmental lens, because it is definitely applicable to everything that you're interested in. Our next question is asking, in my image, graduate students can work on campus as teaching assistants or similar. What kind of on-campus jobs can we have? You are absolutely correct. At Yale and many other universities, you can work as a teaching assistant or a research assistant. And then all administrative offices, or most, also hire students. So a lot of those research centers and programs that Nathan and I mentioned hire students as well. So though you can have so many different types of jobs, and some of our students will be able to, depending on their visa status, also be able to work off campus, but that's my short answer.
Yeah, I would agree with all of those opportunities. Lots of the students in the programs I run get jobs at the library, you know, so they're like doing a little bit of homework while they're working at the library. But lots of opportunities to work either through assistantships or through other opportunities on campus.
Great. Thank you. Okay, our next question is asking about data analysis, I think. So would it be possible to take a data analysis course? Yes, is the shortest way to answer that, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Lori's comment and say yes. Lots of data science classes within the environmental space.
Yes, just to highlight again, classes like, you know, classes relating to data more specifically, but also statistics and economics are going to be important in this field. Okay. Our next question is asking what IB subjects, so that's the International Baccalaureate, would be ideal for applying to university for environmental science, and what what extracurricular activities would you recommend? I think there's a lot. A lot of IB courses that would be valuable to you: biology, environmental science, physics, economics, English, most of them. That's probably not the answer you're looking for, but I would start probably with the environmental science if that's an option, and then courses like physics, biology, economics. I don't know how you feel about those, Nathan, but that's my advice.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, it's going to be somewhat advantageous when applying to a competitive school in the environment to show that you've got some environmental background. But universities are changing a little bit as well, right? In the kinds of ways people do admissions, they really are looking at a larger set of criteria. And so I think it's more so how you communicate why you chose the classes you took and why they're important to you. And that's where you really can break through all sorts of barriers in terms of telling your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so true. So to start answering the second part of your question, I think we've spoken to this. What extracurricular activities would you recommend? Do things that you enjoy. You don't want to be burnt out before you even get to undergrad or get to your master's program. So do things that you enjoy. If they are aligned with the environmental field, which they likely are if you're here today, they'll be valuable. So being able to show your commitment to the environment, but also to communicate what you've done, as Nathan was saying, to the field is going to be really important.
Yeah, do things that are fun. That's really important. And once you're, in grad school or undergrad, you're going to get that kind of advice a lot. Lots of pressures to, succeed and do big things. And so just always make sure you're rounding off those experiences. And that looks great on a resume too. It doesn't have to all be totally linked to the environment, right? Just giving yourself lots of experiences is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so a similar question, but focused on the bachelor's. So I would like to study environmental science or studies at a master's program. What would be the things I can prepare to do while I'm at an undergraduate program? My advice would be to really research the programs that are interesting to you. Get to know what those programs offer, what they look for in students, and try to take some of those classes that they suggest. For example, at YSE, we have no required courses, but if you are ultimately admitted and enroll in our program, we do require you to complete 4 foundational knowledge courses. So if you've taken those previously, that opens up more space to take other classes. So for example, ours are economics, ecological sciences, physical science, and social science. So trying to fill out your transcript with courses in a variety of spaces is potentially helpful to you, but every program is a little different. So take time to look up the various programs. So that'll be my piece of advice, and I'll pass it to you, Nathan.
I think I would largely say the same. There's just so many courses in such a little amount of time, and if you're seeing courses that are just really interesting to you and they happen to be in the same topic, then I would still say go for it, because it really is about finding your own path. Everyone's got a unique path through undergrad, especially, and so find the things that matter most outside of whatever the core requirements are, of course, for your degree.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all of these questions, even if we hang on for an extra 5 minutes, but we'll do our best. Our next question is, I would like to know the English requirements for studying. Also, is it difficult to study environmental studies at a US graduate school unless your undergraduate major is the same? So no, we welcome students from all different undergraduate degrees. I think I feel safe saying that's common among all environmental schools at the graduate level. And the English requirements are going to vary from school to school. Most will require a English proficiency exam if you did not earn your bachelor's degree from a university where the primary language of instruction was English. For example, at YSE, we require either the TOEFL or the IELTS, and we have minimum scores as well for those. So you're going to want to check out each school individually, but I think that's the best overview I can give.
Yeah, I would agree with everything there. A little bit different from university to university, but same with us. You got to take those tests unless your undergraduate was taught in English.
Okay, our next question is, I plan to study environmental studies and science in the US to become a policymaker in the future. However, it seems impossible to become one in the US as a non-US citizen. Therefore, I may have to get a degree to become one in Japan. Do you have any advice on how I can work in the policy-making sector? Are there any career options that influence the world significantly in terms of the environment? Wow, that's a great question. And a full one for sure. So there are lots of ways that as a non-US citizen, you could influence policy in the US, absolutely. Positively and negatively, unfortunately. But yes, you could work with many NGOs, private sectors. You can act as a lobbyist. You can work in a congressman or senators or other lawmakers' office. You can work in law as well. You can earn your JD. Yeah, I think the list goes on. Those are the ones that come to mind to me. But Nathan, any that stand out?
Yeah, policy is probably, if I was to list off the 2 or 3 things that interest the most students, policy is one of them.
Yeah.
And it's because we recognize it's one of the few tools we have to try to create change in this space. Yeah, the NGO sector is a great one. Lots of our international students end up in DC. I think that's common for lots of universities. That's where the NGOs are. That's where government is. That's just opportunities to do policy stuff there. And policy can mean many different things. It's one of the first questions I ask students. Like, I used to work for the state legislature in Montana, as an example, and policy can mean someone being stuck in the basement writing bills, and that's not that much fun. Most people aren't that interested, or crunching Excel data sheets. So there's lots of ways to get involved, either back in your home country or to influence certainly global policy agendas through the NGO sector.
Yeah.
Well, I have to jump in because, it's out of time. So thank you so much again, Nathan and Lori, for your great presentations, and also for thank you so much for so many great questions. So please, refer to directly Nathan or Lori for any questions. Thank you so much again for everyone for joining us today, and especially once again, great thank you to Nathan and Rory for your great presentations, and also for answering so many questions, and for staying up so late. And please take care, healthy and safe. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
well.
Nice to meet you, Lori.
Thank you.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. So I will stop the recording now.